My brother drained my bank account to fund his mistress while my kids went hungry. 20 years later he's bankrupt and I'm the only bank that rejected his loan application. Before we move forward, please show some love by subscribing and share your location in the comments. I love seeing where our family is watching from. I was standing in the cereal aisle at Savamart, comparing prices between store brand and name brand when my phone buzzed. Daryl. My older brother. The screen glowed with his name and something in my chest tightened. We hadn't spoken in 3 weeks, not since Mama's funeral, and even that conversation had been strained and brief. I answered anyway, wedging the phone between my shoulder and ear while I reached for the cheapest box. Felicia, hey. His voice sounded smooth, warm even. Too warm. How are my favorite nieces doing? Red flag number 1. Daryl never asked about Bianca and Cecilia unless he wanted something. They're fine, I said carefully, moving my cart forward. What's up? Listen, I know things have been tight since Alfredo left. There was the sympathy voice. I was thinking maybe I could help you out. You still have that joint account Mama set up for us, right? The emergency fund. My hand froze on a box of oatmeal. That account. I'd completely forgotten about it. Mama had opened it 15 years ago when Daddy died, insisting Daryl and I both have access, in case anything ever happened. There was about $12,000 in there, my inheritance portion I'd been saving for the girls' future. Yeah, why? I asked, my voice suddenly cold. I need to borrow about $8,000. Real estate investment opportunity. Quick flip and I'll pay you back double in 3 months. I promise. I closed my eyes, remembering every broken promise from childhood. Every time Daryl borrowed my lunch money and never paid it back. Every time he forgot to return things. Daryl, that money is for emergencies. For the girls. This is an emergency, Felicia. Come on. Blood helps blood. Something in his tone made my stomach drop, but I was too naive then to understand what desperation really sounded like. 2 days later, I was at the bank trying to withdraw $300 for groceries when the teller, Ms. Miller, frowned at her screen. She'd known me since I opened my first savings account at 16, watched me come in every Friday to deposit my McDonald's paychecks. Felicia, honey, there's a problem with your account. My heart started pounding. What kind of problem? The joint account with Daryl Williams? It's overdrawn. Negative $473. The fluorescent lights above seemed to flicker. That's impossible. There was $12,000 in there. Ms. Miller's face softened with pity and I knew. I knew before she even printed the statement. There were multiple withdrawals over the past 6 days. All authorized with your brother's credentials. The last one was yesterday morning. My hands trembled as I looked at the paper. $8,000 on day 1. $2,000 on day 3. Another $1,500 on day 5. The final withdrawal of $900 plus overdraft fees just yesterday. All of it. Gone. He took everything, I whispered. The woman behind me in line shifted uncomfortably. Ms. Miller lowered her voice. I'm so sorry, Felicia. Legally he had every right. It was a joint account. I stumbled out of that bank in a daze, my 3 kids waiting in the car. Bianca, my oldest at 9, looked up from her book when I climbed into the driver's seat empty-handed. Mama, where's the groceries? I stared at the steering wheel, unable to answer. The gas light had been on since yesterday. I had $43 in my personal checking account and 3 hungry children. And Daryl had stolen our future. That night I called him 17 times. Every call went to voicemail. It was Bianca who found the Facebook post. She was using my phone to play games when she accidentally opened my social media. Mama, who's this pretty lady with Uncle Daryl? I snatched the phone, my breath catching. The photo was from 3 days ago, tagged at the Ritz-Carlton downtown. Daryl, wearing a suit I'd never seen, his arm around a woman with honey blonde hair extensions, designer bag, and a smile that cost more than my monthly rent. The caption read, "Spoiling my queen. She deserves everything." I scrolled through the comments, my vision blurring. There were more photos. Daryl at expensive restaurants. Daryl at a jewelry store. Daryl handing this woman, this stranger, a small blue box that could only mean one thing. "That's her," I breathed. "That's where my money went." My cousin Tasha commented under the jewelry store post, "Big spender. Didn't know you had it like that, Daryl." His response made my blood boil. Real estate game treating me right. Finally living how I deserve. My money. My inheritance. My children's future, draped around this woman's neck and wrist. I took screenshots of everything, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Then I kept scrolling, finding more evidence. Dinner receipts shared publicly. $400 at Morton's Steakhouse. $600 at some fusion place I'd never heard of. Hotel stays in Miami and Vegas. While my babies ate ramen noodles for the third night in a row. I finally reached him that night. He answered on the first ring, sounding breathless. Music pumped in the background. "Felicia, hey, I was gonna call you. Where is my money?" Silence. Then, "What are you talking about? Don't play stupid with me, Daryl." I drove to Daryl's apartment at midnight, leaving the girls with my neighbor Mrs. Patterson. The whole way there my mind replayed every sacrifice I'd made over the years. Every time I chose the cheapest option so I could save. Every overtime shift at the hospital where I worked as a nurse's aide, my feet aching, my back screaming, thinking about that nest egg growing. For college funds. For emergencies. For stability. Daryl lived in a luxury complex I couldn't afford on my best day. The doorman actually tried to stop me until I said I was Daryl Williams's sister. Even then he looked doubtful, comparing my worn Target jeans and old sneakers to the usual clientele. I pounded on apartment 4C until Daryl opened the door, wearing silk pajama pants and nothing else. Behind him I could see her, the woman from the photos, wrapped in his sheet on the couch. "Felicia? What the hell? $12,000, Daryl. Where is it?" His face shifted, guilt flashing across it before morphing into defensiveness. "I needed it. I told you, investment opportunity." Lies. I shoved the phone in his face, showing him his own Facebook. "You spent my children's future on her? On designer bags and expensive dinners while Bianca had to tell her teacher we can't afford the field trip." The woman, Simone, I'd learn her name was, sat up. "Daryl, who is this?" "My sister," he said quietly. "Your sister who you stole from." I was screaming now, not caring who heard. "That was my inheritance. Mama left that for both of us, and you. I'll pay you back." "When?" "In 3 months. Like you promised last time and the time before that." Daryl's jaw clenched. "You've always been jealous of me, Felicia. Always wanting to bring me down." The eviction notice came on a Tuesday. 3 days' notice for non-payment of rent. I'd used every cent to feed my children, and now we were losing our apartment. I sat on the floor of my bedroom, surrounded by bills I couldn't pay, and finally let myself cry. Bianca found me there. "Mama." Her small voice broke something in me. "Are we gonna be okay?" I pulled my 9-year-old into my arms and lied. "Yes, baby. We're gonna be fine." But we weren't fine. We moved into my friend LaShonda's basement, all 4 of us crammed into one room. I picked up double shifts, barely sleeping. The girls changed schools mid-year. Cecilia, only 5, started wetting the bed from the stress. And Daryl? Daryl posted photos from Cancun with Simone, her hand displaying a diamond ring. I called him from the hospital break room on my 30-minute lunch. Daryl, please. I'm begging you. The girls need winter coats. Cecilia's birthday is next week. I need something. Anything. Felicia, I don't have it right now. Things are tight. Tight. I laughed, a bitter, broken sound. You're in Cancun. That was already paid for. Look, I'll send you something when I can, okay? He never did. Not that month. Not the next. Not even a birthday card for Cecilia. I started seeing a therapist at the community center, a kind woman named Dr. Harrison who worked on a sliding scale. During one session she asked me something that changed everything. What would you do if you could never get that money back? How would you rebuild? I thought about it for days. And then I decided, I'd do it anyway. With or without Daryl. With or without that $12,000. I was going to survive. I enrolled in night classes at the community college using Pell Grants, working toward my RN degree. It meant even less sleep, but it meant a future. LaShonda watched the girls while I studied, refusing payment but accepting whatever groceries I could manage. We're family, she'd say. This is what family does. Real family, I thought. Not whatever Daryl was. 2 years passed. I saw Daryl at family gatherings where he played the successful businessman, talking about his real estate portfolio and his investments. Extended family praised him, asked him for advice. Nobody knew he'd stolen from me. Mama had taught me not to air family business and that training ran deep. But I watched him. Watched Simone's ring get bigger. Watched him buy a Mercedes. Watched him brag about closing deals and making money moves. And I kept my mouth shut, working my 2 jobs, raising my girls, surviving. Then something shifted. Daryl started looking strained. The Facebook posts slowed down. When I saw him at Aunt Lorraine's 4th of July barbecue, he'd lost weight, his eyes had bags, and Simone wasn't with him. Where's your fiancé? I asked coldly. We're taking a break, he muttered, not meeting my eyes. I learned through the family grapevine that Daryl had overextended himself, made bad investments, lost money in a pyramid scheme. The Mercedes got repossessed. He'd moved to a cheaper apartment. Simone left him 2 months later, taking the engagement ring to a pawn shop and keeping the money. Karma, I thought. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. I graduated with my RN degree 3 years after Daryl stole from me, walking across that stage with my daughters screaming my name from the audience. 5 years after the theft, my life looked completely different. I was working at Jefferson Memorial Hospital as a registered nurse, making decent money. We'd moved into a small 3-bedroom house, nothing fancy but ours. The girls were thriving. Bianca was in high school talking about pre-med programs. Cecilia was playing violin. My youngest, Crystal, born just before Alfredo left, was in elementary school and reading above her grade level. I'd even started dating again. A good man named Terrence who coached basketball at the community center and treated my girls like they mattered. Then I got the call that changed everything. Ms. Williams, this is Velma Miller from First Unity Bank. Miss Miller. I hadn't spoken to her in years, but I remembered that voice, remembered her pity when Daryl had destroyed me. I'm calling about a position. I know you're a nurse now, but I saw on LinkedIn that you got your bachelor's degree. We have an opening in our loan department. Entry level, but with your medical background and financial need assessment skills, I think you'd be perfect. The pay is better than nursing and there's real room for advancement. I almost said no. I'd built a life. I was stable. But something in me, some whisper of intuition said yes. 3 months later I was working at First Unity Bank, learning the ins and outs of loan applications, credit assessments, risk management. I was good at it. Really good. I understood struggle. I understood what desperation looked like on paper. And I understood the difference between people who needed help and people who were dangerous risks. Within 2 years I was promoted to senior loan officer. Another year and I was assistant manager of the commercial lending department. That's when the universe delivered its gift. It was a Thursday afternoon when Daryl's loan application landed on my desk. I didn't recognize the name at first. He'd used his full legal name, Daryl Dwayne Williams Sr., something he only did for official documents. But when I opened the file and saw his social security number, his date of birth, his address, my heart stopped. My brother was applying for a $40,000 business loan. I read through his application with growing disbelief. He claimed to be starting a consulting firm. His financial history was a disaster. 3 credit cards maxed out. 2 defaults. A bankruptcy from 4 years ago. Tax liens. The Mercedes repossession. Late payments on everything. And there, in the assets section, he'd listed strong family support system as a positive factor. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud in my office, a sound so bitter that my colleague James stuck his head in. "You okay, Felicia?" "Yeah," I said, still staring at the application. "Just life being ironic. By policy I should have recused myself. This was a family member. There was a clear conflict of interest. But I was the only loan officer available that day with authority to process commercial loans in this amount. And Daryl had put urgent on his application, noting he needed a decision within 48 hours. I spent 3 hours reviewing every detail. Not because I was considering approving it. I knew the answer the moment I saw his name. But I wanted to understand exactly how far he'd fallen. The story his finances told was brutal. After Simone left, he tried to maintain his lifestyle by taking out high-interest loans. He'd made increasingly desperate investments, losing money in cryptocurrency and day trading. He'd borrowed from friends and family. I saw loan records from Aunt Lorraine and our cousin Deshawn. He'd burned every bridge. Destroyed every relationship. I called Daryl from my office line. "Professional." He answered on the second ring. "Daryl Williams speaking." "Mr. Williams, this is Felicia Williams from First Unity Bank regarding your loan application." Silence. Then quietly, "Felicia?" "Ms. Williams, please. I'm calling in a professional capacity." "You work at a bank now?" He sounded genuinely surprised. "I'm a senior loan officer in commercial lending. I'm reviewing your application for a $40,000 business loan." I kept my voice level, corporate, detached. "I have some questions about your financial history." "Look, Felicia." "Ms. Williams." He exhaled hard. "Ms. Williams. I know what my credit looks like. But this business, it's legit. I've got clients lined up. I just need capital to get started. This is my chance to turn everything around. I see you listed family support as an asset. Can you elaborate on that?" Another pause. "Well, you know, things get tight, family helps family. That's what Mama always taught us." The audacity. The sheer, breathtaking audacity made my hands shake. I set down my pen carefully before I snapped it. "Family helps family," I repeated slowly. "That's interesting, Mr. Williams. Because I'm looking at your file and I see a bankruptcy from 4 years ago. Can you explain what led to that?" "Bad investments. The market crashed And before the bankruptcy? What were you doing in, say, 2004? I could hear him sweating through the phone. "I was in real estate." "Right. Real estate. That's what you told me when you took $12,000 from our joint account. The account with MY Inheritance. Money I'd saved for MY children. Remember that, Daryl?" "Felicia, please. Do you remember telling me you'd pay me back in 3 months? Double." "It's been 20 years, Daryl. 20 years." My voice was steady now. All the emotion burned away into cold, hard fact. "Do you know where I was when you took that money?" I was choosing between feeding my kids and paying rent. Do you know where you were? The Ritz-Carlton with Simone, buying her a diamond bracelet. I was going through something. You were going through my money. While my 5-year-old daughter was wetting the bed from stress because we were homeless, you were in Cancun. While Bianca had to wear shoes with holes in them to school, Simone was wearing a ring you bought with my inheritance. I know, he said quietly. I know I messed up. But Felicia, I'm desperate. I've got nothing left. You're my last hope. I was desperate too. I called you 17 times that first day. You ignored every call. I begged you for money for Cecilia's birthday. You said things were tight while posting photos from a resort. I asked you for help with winter coats. You never even responded. I'm sorry. Those words. Finally, those words. But they meant nothing. They changed nothing. You're sorry, I repeated. You destroyed my life, traumatized my children, stole my future, and now 20 years later when you need help you remember blood helps blood. You remember family. Please, Felicia. I know I don't deserve it, but... You're right. You don't deserve it. I pulled up the denial template on my computer. Mr. Williams, after careful review of your application, I regret to inform you that First Unity Bank cannot approve your loan request at this time. Your credit history indicates a pattern of financial irresponsibility and default. Your current debt-to-income ratio exceeds acceptable parameters. And frankly, you have demonstrated a consistent inability to honor financial obligations. Felicia, don't do this. The decision is final. You'll receive official notification in writing within 3 business days. Thank you for considering First Unity Bank. I hung up while he was still pleading. Daryl showed up at my house 2 days later. Terrence answered the door, took one look at Daryl's face and called for me. I came outside, not letting him in. My home was sacred now. Practed. How could you do this to me? Daryl demanded. His car, an old Honda with a dented bumper, sat in my driveway. I'm your brother. How could I? I laughed, that same bitter sound from years ago. Daryl, everything I have I built from nothing. From less than nothing because you put me in a hole. I worked 2 jobs while going to nursing school. I lived in someone's basement with 3 kids. I sacrificed and struggled and fought my way here. I know, and I'm sorry. You're sorry now. Now that you need something. But where were you when I needed you? Where were you when Cecilia cried herself to sleep because we couldn't afford her asthma medication? Where were you when Bianca had to do a school project on what success means and she wrote about having enough food? Bianca appeared in the doorway behind me. She was 29 now, about to finish her residency. Beautiful. Strong. Everything I'd fought to give her. Uncle Daryl, she said coldly. You need to leave. Daryl looked at her, then at me. You turned my own niece against me. I didn't have to turn her against you. He was there. She remembers being hungry while you posted pictures of champagne and lobster. She remembers sharing one pair of shoes with her sister while Simone wore Louboutins bought with our money. I made mistakes. People make mistakes. Mistakes are accidents, Daryl. What you did was a choice. A series of choices. You chose to steal from me. You chose to ignore my calls. You chose to let your nieces suffer while you played big shot. There's something else you should know, I said, my voice dropping. When you listed family support on your loan application, I did my research. I called Aunt Lorraine. She told me you borrowed $8,000 from her 3 years ago, promised to pay her back and never did. Then you had the nerve to ask her for more money last year. Daryl's face went pale. I called Deshawn. He lent you $5,000 for a business opportunity that never materialized. Cousin Tasha? You borrowed her car, totaled it, and never paid the insurance deductible. Uncle Raymond co-signed an apartment lease for you and ended up paying 3 months' rent when you disappeared. I'm trying to rebuild. You're trying to run the same con. Don't you see? The pattern never changed. You take and take and take, and when people finally cut you off, you find someone new to bleed dry. But you've run out of people, Daryl. Everyone knows now. Everyone's compared notes. We talk, family talks. I pulled out my phone, showing him the family group chat I'd started 6 months ago after I'd processed his loan application and started asking questions. Message after message from relatives Daryl had scammed, borrowed from, stolen from. A 20-year trail of destruction. You did this to yourself, I said. Every bad thing that's happened to you is a consequence of your own choices. The bankruptcy? That was you spending money you didn't have to impress a woman who left the second your wallet was empty. The repossessions? You prioritizing appearance over responsibility. Your business failures? You were never actually running businesses. You were running schemes. So what am I supposed to do? He asked, and for the first time he sounded genuinely broken. Nobody will help me. I can't get approved anywhere. Get a job, I said simply. A regular job. Not a scam, not a shortcut, not a consulting firm that doesn't consult on anything. Get a job, budget, live within your means, and spend the next 20 years rebuilding what you destroyed. The same way I did. 6 months later, I saw Daryl at Aunt Lorraine's birthday party. He came late, stayed in the corner, barely spoke. He was working at a warehouse, he told Uncle Raymond. Night shift loading trucks. Honest work for honest pay. He looked tired. Older. Humbled. I didn't approach him, but as I was leaving, he stopped me at the door. Felicia. Miss Williams. He struggled with the words. I never really understood what I did to you until it happened to me. Simone draining my accounts. Friends disappearing when I couldn't pay them back. Losing everything and having nobody to turn to. I felt betrayed, Used. I waited, saying nothing. But that's what I did to you. Worse, because you were my sister. You loved me. Trusted me. His eyes were red. I can't ever make it right. I know that. But I need you to know I finally get it. I destroyed your life and you still survived. You thrived. You're everything I pretended to be. I looked at this man, my brother, finally broken enough to be honest. And I felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not pity. Just emptiness where he used to live in my heart. I hope you rebuild, Daryl. I genuinely do. But not with me. Not with my money, my help, my energy, or my forgiveness. That's not cruelty. That's a boundary. You taught me I needed those. I walked to my car where Terrence waited, where my daughters were texting me about dinner plans, where my life, my real, hard-won, beautiful life, was waiting. Behind me, Daryl called out, "Did you really reject my loan just because of what I did?" I turned back one last time. No. I rejected your loan because you were a bad investment. The bank would have lost money. I just happened to have 20 years of proof. I drove away and never looked back. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. Some family isn't worth keeping. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success.